Hello, it's me. Welcome to this channel. Please like, share, and subscribe. It's been raining for days. The sky is gray and the ground is wet. I pulled my boots on over my socks and stepped out into the forest. It was so silent. I could hear my own footsteps on the wet leaves as I walked. There was a fallen tree blocking the path, so I had to climb over it. As I continued walking, I started to hear some animal sounds. There were birds and what sounded like a distant dog. I couldn't see very well because the thick branches and leaves blocked most of the sunlight. The air was cool and damp and the smell of wet earth filled my lungs. I took a deep breath and continued on. The trees seemed to be getting thicker and the path narrower. I walked over more wet leaves, and the sound of crunching filled the air. I wasn't sure where I was going, but I knew I wanted to keep walking. I came across a fork in the path and turned to my right. This led me to a small clearing with a little stream running through it. I followed the stream and came across a beautiful waterfall. I walked behind it and found a small pool of water. I took off my boots and socks and put my feet in the pool. The water was freezing cold, but it felt so good on my hot and tired feet. I sat there for a while just listening to the sound of the rushing water. It was so peaceful. After a while, I put my boots back on and continued on my way. The trees were so thick now that the path was barely visible. I walked over roots that stuck out of the ground and tried to stay on the path as best I could. I was starting to feel a little scared now. What if I got lost in this forest? I walked past tall trees with strange faces and some that looked like they were reaching for the sky. I stopped to catch my breath and that's when I heard a loud crack. I spun around to see a large branch fall from a tree. It landed on the ground with a thud. I started to walk again, but I was more aware of my surroundings now. I was on the lookout for anything that could startle me. As I walked, I noticed that the trees were starting to thin out, and the sunlight was beginning to shine through the branches. I could see the path ahead of me now, and I started to walk faster. I was excited to see where the path would lead me. I walked over a small hill, and that's when I saw it. The forest had opened up into a beautiful meadow filled with wildflowers. I walked into the meadow and the tall grasses brushed against my legs. I could hear the sound of bees buzzing and birds chirping in the distance. I had made it. I took off my backpack and sat down on a nearby rock. I was tired, but also happy. I had made it through the thick forest, and now I could enjoy the beautiful meadow. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. The air was filled with the sweet scent of the wildflowers. I could hear the gentle breeze rustling the grasses. I felt at peace. After a while, I got up and started to explore the meadow. I walked through the tall grasses and wildflowers, taking in the beauty around me. I could see butterflies fluttering from flower to flower. I could see rabbits hopping through the grasses. I could hear the sound of a nearby stream. I felt like I was in a dream. As the day went on, I continued to explore the meadow. I sat on a log and ate my lunch. I read my book under the shade of a tree. I took a nap on the soft grass. It was the perfect day. As the sun began to set, I knew it was time to go. I stood up and walked towards the path that would lead me out of the meadow. As I walked, I looked back at the meadow one last time. It had been an amazing place to explore. I had never felt so at peace. I walked on, knowing that I would never forget my adventure in the thick forest and the beautiful meadow. The end.